All right, for question 37, they give us this information. Let's take a quick look. When a patient receives a penicillin injection, the kidney begins to begin removing the penicillin from the body. The table and graph above shows the penicillin concentration in the patient bloodstream at 5-minute intervals for the 20-minute immediately following one-time penicillin injection. Okay, so here the table gives us the number of minutes after injection and how much concentration that we have. As we see concentration decreasing as time goes on because the kidney removes it right after ingestion. So the concentration in microgram per milliliter. Okay, and then this graph is pretty much the same information, but we plotted the point right, and show us and this form this kind of curve here. Okay, so now let's go to question 37. 37 says, according to the table, how many more micrograms of penicillin are present in 10 milliliter of blood drawn from the patient 5 minutes after injection than there are present in 8 milliliter of blood drawn 10 minutes after the injection? Okay, so we're trying to compare these two scenarios. Okay, so the first one is we have 10 milliliter of blood. Okay, and then it's 5 minutes after ingestion. We're trying to compare that with, okay, we have 8 milliliter of blood in 10 minutes. Okay, and it's 10 minutes after ingestion. And we're trying to see how many more do we have. Okay, so then we go back up to the table here. So one thing we do have to keep in mind here, right, is the volume. Okay, so we go back up the table. You see that the table here, these numbers represent the microgram per milliliter. Okay, so per each milliliter of blood. Okay, so depending how much blood that we have, right? So the total amount of penicillin will change because the more blood we have, the bigger volume. So the total concentration will be bigger as well. Okay, so for our first scenario, okay, we have 10 milliliter of blood and then it's 5 minutes after ingestion. So we know 5 minutes after ingestion is 152 microgram per each milliliter, right? So you got 10 milliliter, we actually had to take the 152 times 10. Okay, we had to take the 152 times 10. And then for the other scenarios, 10 minutes after ingestion is 118 per each milliliter, but we have 8 milliliter of blood, so we do have to multiply that by 8. Okay, and so we solve that, that should be the total, and then we can compare the two numbers. Okay, so don't just compare 152 with 118. Right, we do also have to take into account the total volume. Okay, so we can go ahead and multiply this out, I'll write it down here. So the first one we says 152 times 10 because you have 10 milliliter of blood. So let's solve for the total here. This should give us 1,520. Okay, in the second scenario, we have the concentration for 10 minutes is 118, but we have 8 milliliter of blood, so we multiply by 8. Okay, so what's 118 times 8? We saw in the calculator is 944. And now we're gonna subtract the two numbers. Okay, so 1,520 minus 944, and that should give us the difference. Okay, so 1520 minus 944, we get 576. Okay, 576, and that should be how many microgram that how many more microgram that we have in the first one compared to the second one. Okay, so that will be our final answer for number 37.